that we do not have to go for a minimum wage job at your, conglomerate just so that we can feed our own family. We shouldn't feel that we have to be attached to a system that for so long has manipulated and exploited our people. And we say this in order to get everybody on the same line. And it's a slow process. We all obviously have been raised in different environments, different cultures. We have different experiences, different interpretations of what's right and wrong. And the amazing part about that is that when you get all that come together for one strong cause, such as InPDUM, you see the productive force that is sleeping in every community in our neighborhoods. The power that just a couple dedicated parents can do to change an entire school system. But again, these are only quick fixes to a bigger problem, treating symptoms to a greater disease. And we say that although you have to alleviate those wounds, you have to be a part of something bigger, something tactical, something that sees all these different conditions and doesn't throw them out and say, oh, it's because we're lazy, or we just don't have enough people working hard enough, or there's not enough of us in school yet, so that's the only thing we should build towards. No, we're saying that we as a community have the capability not only to produce our own wealth, to keep each other safe and police ourselves, but that we should be liberated as a people in the sense that we don't have to go to rely on someone, in the sense that we don't have to rely on institutions in order to find work, in order to be happy or find freedom or say that we're educated. We don't have to have one of their pieces of papers saying that we've been certified by white America. And that's the fight that we're constantly engaged in, and there's so many different levels of it that it's hard to bring people in when you have such a diverse organization with a unified goal that people are passionate about, because they'll just constantly be in disagreement with what's the best way to move forward with that. And so we've always seen struggles. Even African organizations have been taught to fight in between each other rather than deal with the real issue. Instead of spending our time and resources focusing on our fight, we're often divided up and conquered. It's military tactics. It's been used on us for years and years, but we don't address it in the way that to a war that has been declared on our community, to a drug war that has put more of our communities into prisons than anywhere else on this planet, yet our community is not in any type of, uprising. That why is it that we're in the prisons? Why is it that our family members have to go through this system where they're cataloged from birth till death on every mistake that they make and continually punished for it? Why is it that we're the only ones facing these conditions in, excuse me for one moment, but to refocus my thoughts, InPDUM is an organization that is making a call. We're in a year of change, turmoil, whatever you want to call it. They'll tell you we're in depression, recession. They'll say it's the world economy, it's the global economy, you name it. But this is the time where we're seeing a great shift being made, where people are able to finally stand up and say,
look, this is ours, this is what we need to fight for. We need to fight for our children receiving true education in the schools, not education taught to fit a test, to meet a SAT, or to learn the wind speeds of a sailboat, when all that information does nothing to uplift our communities, does nothing to change the drug-related problems or the family-related problems within our communities, and doesn't even attempt to address them. InPDUM is the one holding the banner at the front of the fight saying no. InPDUM is the one at every single event who's constantly analyzing, just why is it that Reverend Al Sharpton has showed up so quick to this event? Why is it that, he's asked everybody to come together to join in this giant or mass demonstration, and then he tells you to bow your heads, have a moment of silence, pray for whoever was wronged or abused, and then to go home. That's what we've been doing for years and years and years. You can name Africans who have been murdered, whether it be by our own community or by the police. This continues to happen, and we continue to react. That's all we do is react. It's like we're numb individuals in this country, unable to say, hey, look, instead of a school system teaching me to react, to regurgitate, to spit something out, instead of analyzing and being able to think of my own conclusions in order to really question in order to really question the status quo of what's presented to us, we have to have people on the ground doing it. And I feel that I've gotten mixed up in my words, but without a vanguard, without people in your neighborhood who are looking out for you when some mass corporation like Walmart attempts to move in and push out local businesses, without these types of people like Diop who will fly to your city just to try and get you organized and build some type of unity within a community, we would continue to be pushed back until the points of slavery. And there's people who say to now that we're in a situation worse than slavery because we're in a slavery that we fully commit to and accept. We're the ones who drive to the plantation every day, and we feed and house ourselves while people continue to make more and more money and wealth and finances out of us. And we just have to say for once, look, we have the expertise. We've been able to do this, and we've built it for how many hundreds of years. Why isn't it something that we can do for ourselves now? And so if you become a part of InPDUM, you can do it for yourself. And you'll see more institutions like the WorldBeat Center, more news sources like Uhuru News popping up, and you'll get actual answers to the questions that we've asked for hundreds of years. Why is it that we're the ones in the prisons, the ones being killed by the police, and why is it that there's so much hate between us and our own community? Next up, we're going to have International President Diop Olugbala speak. Like I said, this is a man who's traveled the world, who's spoken at conferences in Venezuela, just because the world finds the African perspective as important. We have led a revolutionary charge in the 60s, and people look to us as the changing force on this planet, people who vouch for civil rights and fight for our liberties. And so that's something that we have to continue to do because we've receded. We've fallen back from that type of lifestyle. And so Diop is going to be here. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Comrades, brothers and sisters and allies, I really want to first of all thank Comrade Xavier and Marielle and all of the comrades of the San Diego, or the soon-to-be San Diego branch of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, and or InPDUM. And I think that Xavier and Mariel and Maito, representing the African People's Socialist Party, really summed up, the importance of building a revolutionary organization in this period of struggle that we're in right now as a people. And I want to be clear that my goal in this presentation and this event is not just to give you, a good speech so we can feel good or feel like we consume a lot of information, but this particular event has a strategic goal to it, which is to actually build a real branch of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. I'm just curious, by a show of hands, how many of you all were here in early October when Chairman Omali Yeshitela came to speak in San Diego at various campuses and in the community? Just by a show of hands. Y'all were here in the events in early October? Okay, good. Because if you were here and you heard the chairman speak, then you already heard a lot of what I would otherwise have to say. But the chairman, as you know, did a lot of the work for me. So, but what we want to do is talk about why InPDUM must be built. Chairman Omali Yeshitela, he's the chairman of an organization known as the African People's Socialist Party and the African Socialist International, which is a worldwide revolutionary organization comprised of the best sons and daughters of Africa who understand, like Maito said, members of the party understand very clearly that the only way that we're going to see an end to the poverty that Africans face around the world, an end to the police murders, or any other problem that you would characterize as a black problem, the only real solution for that is actual revolution, is to overturn this social system that is responsible for the miserable conditions that we live in right now. And so there's never ever been a revolution to occur anywhere on the planet without the presence of revolutionary organization to organize the masses of the people to understand that it is in their truest and deepest interest to make a revolution. So without revolutionary organization, there will be no revolution. And really, what you will find happen is that the people will engage in a struggle that will solve the problem for somebody else, right? As opposed to ourselves. You even see it happen through what they call the electoral process, where really the elections that just happened earlier this month was a form of political struggle that occurred between two contending sectors of the white ruling class, of the imperialists, of the slave master. Because it's not like, white power is a homogenous force that doesn't have its own internal contradictions. Even within the white ruling class, you have various sectors and factions that have their own interests. Some may be tied to what they call finance capital. Some may be tied to, the oil industry, or any other particular sector of the capitalist economy. And the elections that you see happening every 4 years in this country are what we would say to be a non-violent means through which these competing sectors struggle for control of the state and for of the government. So if forces of Wall Street and finance capital, they put forth nearly $1 billion for Barack Obama's campaign, and so that once he is elected or re-elected, he would use the government and the state to forward the interests of that particular sector of the white ruling class. That's why the first 4 years of Obama, you saw $23 trillion given away to the Wall Streeters, so to speak. The auto industry, who else? The banks, right? The real estate forces that went belly up, these forces, through Barack Obama, were able to gain access to massive amounts of capital, through the government. And so, but the point is that even as this is what the objective of the elections is, even though masses of African people and Mexicans and other oppressed people came out in record numbers to vote, engaged in that political struggle, we did not benefit from the outcome of that political struggle. And so, in our view, it is not just enough to participate in political struggle just in general. Our goal as a revolutionary organization is to organize the people in political struggle based on our own real material interests. And we know that there can never be any permanent solution for the problems that Africans and other oppressed people face through the same system, the same electoral system, and the same system that is responsible for the misery we suffer from, not only in this country, but around the world. We know that the real solution lays in waging a struggle to gain political power in our own hands and independence as a people. That's what we want, to be for the right to be a self-determined, self-governing people. So in a nutshell, that's what the African People's Socialist Party stands for. And we're going to talk more about the work the party does, but I stand before you as the president of the party's mass organization, because not everybody, even though we as black people, Mexicans, etc., we obviously have an interest in making a revolution, but the average person on the street, if you were to approach them and try to engage them in a discussion about, socialism and, the need to wage revolutionary struggle under the leadership of the African working class, that's not necessarily where the masses of the people are at, politically and ideologically. However, the people are interested in a discussion about how we can prevent the police from murdering our people, how we can, as Xavier said, how we can gain control over the schools that have the responsibility of educating our children, how we can take back all of the houses and real estate that was stolen from our parents and our grandparents through the subprime mortgage. These are concrete issues around which the masses of the people are ready and willing to organize, because these are issues that impact directly on the lives of the people on an everyday basis. And so the reality is that all these problems, you talk about the police, you talk about the housing situation, or education, or any other contradiction that we're dealing with, the reality is that the police are murdering you as a result of a colonial policy. The police are part of a colonial state apparatus that has a responsibility to do to African people and Mexican people in San Diego the same thing that the Marines do to the people of Afghanistan, or the Israeli government is doing to the people of Palestine, etc. And it's our responsibility to connect the dots and help the people understand that the police brutality that goes down in San Diego is but the way through which colonialism articulates itself in the lives of the people. And therefore, our demand would be community control of police, which is another way to say that we want to take state power, we want control of the state, and which is part of revolutionary struggle. So InPDUM and its program is designed to bring the masses of people into revolutionary political life. So we're going to talk about that, throughout this presentation. But I want to be clear where we're coming from. InPDUM is not like a militant version of the NAACP where we just want to change things. I mean, Barack Obama was talking about change for the last 4 years. Our goal is not necessarily change. Our goal is transformation. Our goal is to literally transform the conditions that we experience and to transform our relationship to this government and to this system. So we can't be compromising on that question. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, because it was said before, like Michael talked about it, Xavier talked about it, there's crisis going on right now. It's impossible to deny the fact that this system is falling apart at the seams, right? Every time you turn around, that crisis manifests itself in one way or another. That crisis manifests itself in the ever-escalating rates of unemployment. Even for the white people, it's hard to get a job, right? But particularly for African and Mexican and oppressed people in this country, the unemployment and the conditions of poverty are becoming worse and worse, right? At the same time, you have a situation where all over the world, where at one time the U.S. government in particular used to just assume, it was just, taken for granted that it had the ability to come into a particular land or territory, take over the government, and take all the resources, right? But nowadays, it don't go down like that. Nowadays, you got all types of resistance and struggle that's occurring around the world, where oppressed people are starting to say that Uncle Sam just can't come into Afghanistan and take our oil, set up a puppet government without some type of resistance, right? You can't go to Venezuela and just take the oil without some type of resistance. The fact is that around the world, oppressed people are starting to rise up and engage in real resistance in challenging the U.S. government and white power as a whole, challenging its ability to just simply steal the resources. And the fact is, brothers and sisters, that this resistance is the basis of the crisis that you hear about when you talk about the banks going belly up, when you talk about the increasing unemployment rate, when you talk about even the need for the government to put more police and build more prisons, the budget cuts, closing down schools, etc. All of this crisis is rooted in the fact that U.S. imperialism no longer has the ability to steal the wealth that it once had the ability to steal. It has a direct impact on the prosperity and the security of the U.S. and the capitalist economy as a whole. That's very important for us to understand. Another thing that Chairman Ahmadi Shatala has been struggling for us to understand in a really concrete way is that this system of parasitic capitalism was born parasitic. And it was born out of a process of an attack by Europe on Africa, on Asia, on the so-called New World, North America, Latin America, etc. The capitalist system as we know it today was built out of the process of Europe going into Africa and kidnapping black people. As Karl Marx said it himself, turning Africa into a war for the hunting of black skins, right? The slave trade itself was literally the first stop. Black people were the first stop that were bought, sold, and traded on Wall Street. It was slavery and colonialism that gave birth to parasitic capitalism as we know it today. And it was the violent assault on Africa and the rest of the non-European, non-white world that made it possible for this theft to occur. Because it's not like, Africans would just willingly walk on to a slave ship and, say, I'm tired of the sun and, drinking mango juice and all that. I want to go to Mississippi to pick cotton for the next 400 years. We know that our presence in the U.S. is a consequence of a violent attack on Africa. Africans were kidnapped by gun and forced to work for free for the next 400 years. And it was through this process that the wealth that we see in downtown San Diego and Wall Street and throughout this economy, this is the basis of the wealth. And not just the attack on Africa, but the same thing was done to Asia. The same thing done right here where we stand, which is occupied Mexico. This is the land of the Mexican people, of the indigenous people of this land. The only reason why there is a state of California or Arizona or Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, is because of that violent attack, the theft of the land from the indigenous people. And now call it, part of the U.S., right? And this is the basis of all the wealth in the capitalist system today. But now the Mexican people are rising up and resisting, right? Now the Palestinian people are resisting. And the fact is that African people ourselves are fighting back as well. And the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement is the organization that bears the responsibility to organize that resistance under revolutionary leadership and to give it revolutionary consciousness and theory. The reason why that's so important is because it's not enough just to resist. We talk about how the resistance of oppressed people impacts on the U.S. economy, particularly the parasitic capitalist economy, and quiet as it's kept, that resistance is not just happening in the Middle East or under the leadership of Hugo Chavez, but you have that type of resistance occurring throughout the continent of Africa. And the fact is that it is Africa that is the umbilical cord for white power, for U.S. imperialism in particular. If you take the resources that the U.S. steals from Africa out of the equation, there will be no U.S. economy, there will be no capitalist economy. That's the literal truth. And you have right now a situation in Africa, I don't know how many of y'all heard about it, but you got all types of things going on in Africa right now. But one example I want to point to just illustrate the importance of this resistance we're talking about to be informed by revolutionary theory and to be tied to a revolutionary organization is a situation in South Africa that is still unfolding today. Is anybody here familiar with the recent mine strikes, the strikes of the mine workers in South Africa? Anybody heard about them? Good. But the reason why most of us have not heard about it is because the imperialist media does not want you to know that your brothers and sisters are actually getting organized to take back control of our wealth. Now, among other things, one of the resources that are stolen on an ongoing basis from Africa is platinum. You know, like sometimes back in the 90s, in the early 2000s, the rappers, you know what I mean, when kind of platinum was in style at that time, you know. It ain't so much that case anymore, but the point is that platinum as a precious metal comes from, particularly, is abundant in what is known as South Africa, what we call Azania. And recently, there was a strike that was organized by the mine workers in a section of South Africa called Marikana, I believe it is pronounced, where there's an abundance of platinum in the mines in that particular region of South Africa. And this is where, you know, like major platinum dealers get their platinum from. Now, of course, the people who dig up the platinum for these multinational corporations live in the worst conditions. Less than $2 a day, you know, live in shacks, deplorable conditions. The same way that, you know, African workers around the world live. But these particular mine workers decided that no longer are we just going to allow for our platinum to just, you know, go into these white people's hands while we live in destitute poverty. And so what happened was the workers in the platinum mines organized a strike. And the strike actually spread throughout South Africa. And it threatened to spread beyond South Africa. And in many cases, it did. And for a long period of time, this strike shut down many sectors of South Africa's economy. It was a serious situation that the imperialists had on their hands because that strike undermined the ability for the capitalist economy to steal the resources. It disrupted the economic activity. And what happened was, y'all familiar with the ANC in South Africa? Mandela's crew? I know you're told that, you know, the mainstream line they tell us is that the ANC, the African National Congress, and Mandela were the ones that were fighting against apartheid, and, you know, they were fighting for the right for Africans to have, you know, rights, etc. But the reality is that the African National Congress and the ANC, Mandela's crew, were never opposed to white power stealing the resources or even occupying South African territory. And from day one, the ANC has worked in cooperation with white power to facilitate the ongoing theft of our resources. It's what we call neo-colonialism, or white power in blackface. And the fact is that even though the ANC is supposedly running the government in South Africa, when the mine workers went on strike, the ANC sent the police to the strike and massacred the mine workers. The mainstream media reported that 18 of the mine workers were killed in that process, simply for organizing a demonstration of strike demanding better pay and conditions. And this is the work of the African National Congress, which is nothing but an extension of the interests of U.S. imperialism, as we see very clearly in how they moved on your brothers and sisters who were trying to organize for better pay and conditions. But despite that repression, the strikes were successful and significant in many ways, right? And the reality is that the strikes and that resistance spread to various parts of the community, where the truckers went on strike in solidarity with the mine workers, African women went on strike, and waged support for that fundamental strike going on in the platinum mines. Serious situation that imperialism had to contain through military intervention, as we just saw. But the point I'm trying to raise is this. Even for as significant as the strikes were, and they were very significant, in absence of the strikes occurring as part of a general revolutionary strategy in which the African workers and poor peasants are actually able to seize political power to destroy the neo-colonial state that is occupied by the ANC, then the strikes won't mean anything, really. Because at the end of the day, they can go ahead and, give you a couple of dollars pay raise in the platinum mines, but will that stop the police from murdering our people who maybe not working in the platinum mines? Will that provide the type of education that we want for our children to receive? Will that provide and guarantee decent housing for the people? Will that transform the fundamental conditions that the people face, not only in South Africa, but everywhere else in the African world? Of course not. So it's not just a struggle to get better pay and conditions in the mines. The fact is that any struggle, any resistance that we engage in must be tied to a worldwide revolutionary strategy in which the fundamental goal is for the African working class to take political power in our own hands. That is what the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement and the African Socialist International is all about. We're talking about building a worldwide revolutionary movement and organization that has the ability to unite all the resistance. I was in Sierra Leone. Y'all know about Sierra Leone, right? Where they say the blood diamonds come from. They didn't talk about the blood platinum in South Africa or the blood coffee in Kenya or any of the other blood resources that are being stolen from us anywhere in the African world. But the reality is, in Sierra Leone, you got a situation where the diamond mine workers are suffering the same oppression and exploitation that the platinum mine workers were suffering in South Africa. And I went to Sierra Leone one time to do some organizing. The first day I was in Sierra Leone, there was a strike that was organized by the workers, and two of the people who led the strike got shot and killed by a private security company that was controlled by the same multinational corporation that was stealing the diamonds. So this type of thing happens all the time. You just don't read about it in the San Diego Times, But the point is that if that strike in South Africa was tied to the strikes in Sierra Leone or tied to the strikes that those brothers in the Ohio prison system organized, in other states of this country organized strikes in the prisons, and if generally African workers all over the world are participating in the same strike, then that would be a whole other situation. If we had the ability if an African gets killed by the police in Chicago, Illinois, to not only respond in Chicago, Illinois, but to respond in London, England, and Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and Kinshasa, Congo, and San Diego, California, then that's a whole other situation. So our goal is to build one organization to unite African people around the world. And that's why we have the slogan of touch one, touch all. Saying if they touch us in South Africa, then we're going to touch them back or any other place around the world where we have our organization. And that's part of why we got to build the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement right here in San Diego, California. Now, before I step off, I want to say a few things concretely about who InPDUM is. Because we do have a track record. We're not just up here talking, just talking, but we have an actual track record of resistance. The International People's Democratic Uhuru movement is the same organization where in just last year, y'all heard about the rebellions, the white people call them riots, the rebellions that happened in the UK in response to that young brother Bob Duggan that got killed by the police, and the masses of young African workers rose up and almost burned the whole country down, right? Which was a righteous rebellion in the face of ongoing terror and violence that the UK government inflicts on black people, not only in that country, but throughout the world. And it was InPDUM that boldly went out into the streets and raised up the right and the responsibility for African people to resist our oppression, where everybody else ran for cover for fear of some type of political repression. It was InPDUM who, in the year 2009, y'all heard about Lovell Nixon? Lovell Nixon, I just came up from Oakland, California. That's where I'm based right now. Lovell Nixon was a young African who, before being assassinated by a squad of Oakland Police Department forces, took out 4 cops just a couple of weeks after the police murdered Oscar Grant. Y'all know about Oscar Grant, right? They don't tell you about Lovell Nixon, but they let you know about Oscar Grant because they love to talk about how black people get murdered all over the place without any type of consequence, but they won't tell you about the resistance. But Lovell Nixon took a righteous stance of resistance against the police occupation of the African community and literally responded to the assassination of Oscar Grant by taking out 4 of them. And we held up Lovell Nixon as an example, a righteous example of an African that took a stance of resistance against a colonial occupation of the African community. But we're not just against the police occupation of our community, but InPDUM has a program that calls for economic development for the African community. Because reality is the police only murder us and occupy our communities as a means of keeping you separated from your resources. Y'all know that, right? The police are essentially a military force that protects the economic interests of the ruling class of any given society. That's why if you get robbed, so to speak, the police is not going to go to City Hall and lock up the mayor who's responsible for taking all your resources from you, right? But let you go to Safeway and take some food to feed your family with without paying them, and you see whose interests the police represent. Let you be that African or that Mexican after living in a slum apartment for months and months, and you can't get no kind of repairs, your toilet don't work, there's a leak in the ceiling, no heat in the wintertime, and you say you're not gonna pay no more rent until some repairs are made. The police are the ones, the sheriff, or whatever you may have you, are the ones that will come and either you pay it up or you get the hell out. The police are the ones, if you sick, and even though they got all types of empty beds in the San Diego General Hospital right now, they have the capacity to literally provide you with health care. But if you don't got the money or the insurance that your money bought, try to get in one of those empty beds in a hospital and you see what the real role of the police is. Let you be, for example, the Black Panther Party, which built a tremendous organization during the Black Power Revolution of the 60s that was organizing African people for political and economic independence. And you saw what the police fundamental responsibility in society is when they attack the Black Panther Party so viciously. But they don't do that to these thieves in City Hall and the White House who are robbing the people blind. So we know that the police, as well as the state apparatus as a whole, exists to protect the interests of the white ruling class, of the ruling class of this parasitic capitalist economy. And so we are against the police. We are against a general colonial occupation of our community. But more than that, we are against it because it is the police and the state apparatus that stands between African people and our resources. It is the state that prevents African people from organizing for control of our own food, of our own housing, our own health care, etc. And so we are not just simply against the police. We are for economic development and reparations to the African community. And it's of extreme importance that we tie the relationship between the police and the general colonial occupation of our community and the general state of poverty and oppression that African people suffer in this country and around the world. And so InPDUM, as we speak, we are embarking on a new period of struggle, raising up the slogan of bread, peace, and black power in the 21st century, where we will be engaged in various economic programs to literally solve the material problems for the people. Right now in Oakland, California, we have a circuit, a network of community gardens designed to provide food for the people. Because I don't know if y'all know, but the food stamps, the federal government already said they're going to cut the budget for the food stamps by $12 billion by the year 2014. And if you expect for a colonial government that puts you in slavery to feed you, you must be out your damn mind. So we got to build organization that will essentially speak to the material interests and solve material problems that the masses of the people are confronted with. In Washington, D.C., we have the Marcus Garvey Academy, where we literally provide education to our youth. In other parts of the world, we engaged in building real concrete programs that are designed to solve the material interests of the people. And so these are some of the things that you can expect to be able to participate in as a member of the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. But most importantly, the fact is that you can't get nothing done as an individual. I know that they like to promote, under a bourgeois capitalist society, they promote individualism. They tell you, go ahead and get yours. That's what Brother Maito was talking about. You know, that's the function, that's one of the functions of the colonial education system. They promote individualism. In fact, what you're told is that the more education you get, the more successful you will become. And part of that education means, going for yours, not bringing the skills and the resources that you have acquired through that educational process back to the people. They want you to bring the skills to build up the same institutions and economy that's responsible for the general state of poverty that our people face. So we have to redefine what success and prosperity is, and we say there's no solution for any individual outside of a collective effort, outside of organization. Whether you know it or not, that's the real deal, and it's going to take organization to lead that process. And I'm not talking about being organized by IBM or the U.S. government. I'm talking about building a revolutionary organization so we can work according to our own interests. So that's what InPDUM is about, y'all. And lastly, we're going to be holding our international convention on March 23rd and 24th. And y'all should have, those of you who walked through the door and signed in at the table, got one of these flyers, right? This is the main promotional flyer for our upcoming international convention. The slogan is One Africa, One Nation, build revolutionary organization to protect and defend our own. And it's tied to everything we've been saying thus far, that we're going to have to build an organization to literally protect and defend our own, and the highest expression of protection and defense is making the revolution. And part of our responsibility, we talked about the need to unite the broader sectors of the African community under one organization. And I'm not just talking on a geographic level. We do want to organize Africans everywhere geographically, from Europe, we there, we in Africa, we in throughout North America, and we building in South America as well. So we want to unite our people throughout the geographic globe, but we also want to organize every sector of the African community. Because the reality is that, you know, African people, we are a very diverse nation. We are men, we are women, we are youth, we are elders, we're workers, we're students, we even gay and straight, we artists, we are business owners. There's all types of sectors within the African community as a whole, all of which are impacted by colonialism, whether you know it or not. If you are an African woman, and I'm not one of these petty bourgeois feminists that have this like biological kind of analysis saying that the fundamental contradiction in society is between men and women. It's not that. But the reality is that there's a real special oppression of African women, a special oppression and exploitation of African women. We live in a society that in many ways was built on a particular type of attack on African women, and an ongoing attack on African women. And I'm not just talking about what you see on BET and, you know, the booty shake and all that, which is part of it. But I'm talking about what's going on in the housing projects, where in the welfare system, where the masses of African women have to deal with a very vicious and hostile colonial system, where, you know, you have to literally act like you don't even got a husband in order to receive certain benefits of the public housing and the welfare system. Y'all know that, right? In some cities, and probably this one too, you can't get an apartment in the projects if you are married. So, you know, that in itself is an attack on African women and the African family and the community as a whole. Same thing going on in the welfare system. And there's all types of examples I can raise up. But we're going to have to really define what the struggle to organize and defend African women is all about. And that's what this convention is going to deal with. We're talking about the question of LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual sector of our community, where there's a particular, you know, sector in the community that will try to make it seem like the wars between gays and straights, like, you know, somehow Africans who happen to be gay cannot participate in the struggle to liberate the African nation. And meanwhile, they don't got nothing to say about George Bush because he's straight. That's nonsense. We saying that all African people are victims of colonialism regardless of their sexual orientation, and our responsibility, if anything, is to bring, say, to the gay sector of our community to come on home, to join, unite with the African nation to overturn the system so that you can be gay without fear of colonial oppression and all types of backwards ideas that exist in our community as a result of colonial oppression as well. We're talking about organizing students who, in many ways, are challenged with this task of solving the problems of the future. That's part of why you go to school, to acquire skills and training and whatnot so that you can be self-sufficient, so that you can develop a future for yourself and your children, right? But we know that there can be no future under this system that is falling apart at the seams. under a system that built itself at the expense of your very community. So we said we got to organize African students to come home to the revolution. And the same thing goes for every other sector of our community. And there's a lot of other things I want to say, but I'm running out of time. But again, this is not a talk fest, but this is an organizing meeting. I'm glad to see a lot of faces here today. And I want to challenge everybody to answer the call to join the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement and to build a strong branch here in San Diego and to bring a strong contingent to our international convention, which is going to happen, again, March 23rd and 24th in St. Petersburg, Florida. So again, I want to thank comrades of the San Diego branch to be for pulling this event together. And I hope to see everybody else become a member of the InPDUM as well very soon. Uhuru.
Comrade, are you going to mention anything about our follow-up meeting tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we will. I might as well do it now since Kwame did the plug. So, Brother Kwame brought up an important point. First of all, there's going to be a call to join made later on, actually now. And those of you who want to join, who wants to join InPDUM? First of all. All right. Don't be scared. Raise your hand. You want to join the room. Good. So those of you who want to join InPDUM in particular, we're going to have an organizing meeting tomorrow night so that we can give you more detail on what that means to be a branch of this organization. Uhuru.
So, can you hear me? So, I just want to encourage all of you to get more involved, or at least learn more about the Uhuru movement. If not InPDUM, there's other things you might want to be interested in. But InPDUM specifically, I'm part of InPDUM, and I just want to say that it is worth investing your time in. The last 2 years, there has been a program in the summer called the Summer Project, and I'm not going over the history of that, maybe I could, but my experience was that just seeing the unity of the people of the community, just going out there, we were doing door-to-door handouts of a big event that was leading up, that we were preparing for at the end of the project, but just talking to everybody in the community, especially the African community, just seeing how much needed organizing is, how much guidance I would want to say people need so that to get them out of this, not just like the recession that's affecting all of us, but the oppression too that X mentioned earlier.
Economic independence. And that's what we're right up here to call for, is economic independence. And it sounds in its way like, oh, so you guys are trying to make money. No, we're saying we don't want to be dependent upon the American government to fund our breakfast programs or our medical program, because just like you hear, the revolution will not be televised. The revolution is definitely not going to be funded. It's not going to be brought on by an NGO. You're not going to be able to write a grant for AK-47s or peaceful flags when you march in however way this revolution takes place. But the fact is that it has to be funded by our own communities, and that's what InPDUM is. We've never been a nonprofit organization that receives money from the government. It's always been our own communities funding it. So all the projects you see us putting on, the different organizations are supported by our own communities. When you see a cassava farm being built in West Africa, when you see a community garden being built in Oakland, that's people in our neighborhoods who have committed their time or their resources, because both of them are just as important to this movement that they feel is empowering and changing their community. Something that is going to really be something you can see, something substantial in your hands. That's what economic independence is, and that's what we're calling for, to not be dependent upon the American government, because when there is something serious, when there is a situation like a natural disaster, you see the American government's response to our communities in situations like Katrina. We should be the first ones on the ground, and that's what did happen, is that you saw members of the community, going against laws to not go back into the area just to save people. So we were making a call right now for financial support from this community, because we know that we have to own our organization. We can't just say, I'm a member of InPDUM, but we get funded by these people over here. That in itself is, you're obviously serving someone else's interest. But if you can stand tall and say, the reason that we got these flyers and this venue put on today was because of my donation, because of my support. That's what powers this organization. That's what makes the change. And that's, we're trying to raise
$300 tonight.
We're trying to raise $300 tonight, but every night we're trying to raise more than that. We want to break our goals because we feel that our community has that and more to provide towards something that they see substantial and something that is really creating change in their community. I know grandparents who will come into a store and buy a $20 card that says, hey, you just gifted a goat to a village in Africa. $20 to something they have no idea, where that money's going to, how much percentage going in whose pocket. But this is something where you can physically get a live stream of what is being worked on by this organization all around the world. So that's why we have to have this moment where we ask a call to pull our resources together, because we know that we have been economically oppressed, physically oppressed in all these types of ways. So, if one person right here in the house tonight wants to donate $300, have us hit our goal right now, so we're going to break our goal, you can raise your hand and we'll just move to the back and ask everyone else to donate in the cans, and we can get right back to organizing what we're here for, what we're about. But, if no one has that type of funds, $300 in the air, anybody? Brought some cash to support their organization. If nobody has that type of funds, we can drop it down, $250. If two people in the house came up with $150, raised it in the air right now, we would meet and exceed our goal, because I know other people are going to be donating. So if two people dropped $150, this is our organization. Really, people, really. You do not see invisible children coming into our neighborhood telling us how to lead a revolution for ourselves, because they couldn't. That's not their role. This is our role, and we're stepping up to the plate. We're seeing it happen. You see what we're doing here and what we're trying to build on, and it needs that type of support. So can I get $100 in the house? 100.
Few 50s.
Anybody with $50 to support the movement. $50, anywhere. All right. We got, everybody's gonna probably just throw in some smaller amount, and we'll hit our goal still. So how about $20? $20 in the room. I will be the first to throw $20. Mayel, $20. We got $20 in the back over there. That's $60 right there. Anybody else want to throw $20 in the pot?
$40 to meet 100.
All right, 10, 15, $15 in your pocket. And remember, you know, you don't gotta raise your hand. You can walk to the back of the room quietly, put your donation into the can. You know, everybody doesn't have to know that you're big balling. If you want to go drop that $100 bill, that's fine. We won't make a big case out of it. But we want you guys to participate. We want you guys to feel that you own this. So definitely raise your hands and put some money in the pot. Does anybody got $5? We got $5 there. I don't know if anybody's been keeping count, but I see people all over are putting money in the pot. I know we gotta be at, is anybody keeping count? We got 20, 40, 60 from the 20s. I got two $5. I'm sure some other people put some bills in there. Anybody else wanna be recognized for supporting their organization? Right now is the time. We definitely want to see those hands because we want to be able to thank you personally and say, hey, look, this is real contribution. We're happy. Not only did you take the time to come out and listen to us at this event to try and understand us and hear what we have to say, but you brought real resources in to support and make that change. So is there any last donations? Throw your hands in the air. I'm sure somebody will come around to you with a can. All right, and we want to thank you all for everything you contributed. It's all counts, every single cent of it. And now we're going to be moving on to our next part.
Questions and answers.
The most important part is, according to my program, it says call the joint. And I want to help out with this. Because, excuse me, Conrad. No, you can stay up here, Conrad, because I'm here flanked by two members of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And really, even more than financial contribution, we need human resources. We need for people to actually participate in the work necessary to deal with the questions that we're talking about now in this presentation. So, this right here is a membership card of InPDUM. Hopefully other members have theirs with them. But we want to create a situation where anywhere on the planet, if, let's say an African gets stopped by the police and you pull this card out, that in itself is a deterrent for the police not to mess with you because they know that when they harass you, they try to frame you up, beat you up, whatever. They know we're not just attacking an individual defenseless African, but they're attacking an African that's tied to a worldwide organization that has the ability to hold demonstrations around the world saying free Combat Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of organization that we're trying to build. And more than that, your membership is a concrete statement of your unity with what the organization is about. To join InPDUM is a $35 annual at minimum. There's other levels of membership, and you can read the join form to get more information about how you can join. But on a basic level, a standard membership is $35 for the year. And that makes you qualified to be an actual voting member. At the convention, for example, that's where you vote for the international leadership of the organization. You talk about elections and democracy, you don't experience that through the U.S. electoral process. You experience real democracy through your own revolutionary organization. And if you don't join, then you don't have no say. So we want to encourage everybody to not only state your unity with the organization's program, but be an actual part of the organization's process by becoming a member. So again, by a show of hands, who is interested in joining the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement tonight? Anybody? We have one in the back. Uhuru. Uhuru. Excellent, excellent. What's your name, brother? Jason. All right, man. So we have the membership table right there. We'll hook you up, right?
And I did not mention this when we were passing the cans around, but we also accept pledges. We know that people in our community, we're not always carrying $35 when we go to a meeting to learn something. And so you just write down on a card that you pledge to pay this amount. If you felt like you really wanted to donate tonight, but just didn't have the cash on you, you can go back to that table, fill out a pledge card, and then really commit and say, all right, I'm gonna pay to my organization, and it's gonna take some time, and I'll set up a plan for it. But that's actually what I've been doing this year. I pledged that I would get $200 donated, and so I gave myself a goal, $20 every month. If that gave me 2 months just in case, times are tough. But so far, every single month, I'm sending that $20 in, and I'm gonna reach my pledge goal. And that's something I'm gonna feel proud of at the end of the year, because I know that $200 has contributed to this organization. And that $200 may not seem like a lot to some people, but to me, that's a lot for me, and that's as much as I could give to the organization. I've seen people raise their hand and give $15,000 to the organization in a meeting just like this. We had a meeting over at Lincoln High School where we had a crowd smaller than this of community members at a majority Mexican and African school in the most impoverished area of San Diego compared to Point Loma and Ocean Beach, raise over $1,000 when in a smaller room than this. That's the power of this organization. That's what drove people to want to own this, to want to be a part of this. And so you can make your pledges in the back and really say, hey, I am going to be an InPDUM member. It may not be at this exact moment, but in my 2 weeks of payments, I will be a card-carrying InPDUM member. And when I am harassed by the police and they see this card, they'll know that people in San Diego are politically educated, that we're smart, that we're not going to take the shit, and that we are going to be involved in our own struggle to free ourselves, free our minds. And so we don't want to see just regular members. We want to see Malcolm X members, Marcus Garvey members. Those are the people who have given $250 or $500 and chosen to be members for life. They said, I'm not going to wait every year to pay $35. I'm going to get it all out my pocket and say, this is something I'm going to be a part of for the rest of my life, because it's that important. I'm already real thankful for you all just for showing up, but for the people who have raised their hands and say, I want more, and I'm hungry for more. I really commend you for going above and beyond. Was there anybody else who wanted to raise their hand today and make the commitment to say, I want to become an InPDUM member? And just so we get a feel of the audience, everyone who is either right now a current InPDUM member or who has previously been an InPDUM member, can you raise your hands just so you all know the people in here representing, who have been organizing on the ground? All right. So Q&A. Okay. So now we're gonna have a question and answer session. We always want to have a discussion with our community, with our audience. It's even in our day-to-day organizing. When we sell the Burning Spear newspaper, our goal isn't to get that dollar from you because we're trying to make an organization out of selling dollar newspapers. No, it's to get the information in your hands and hear what you think about it. We want to know what the community thinks about the programs we're putting on because it's our communities being affected by them. They're the ones who have the best criticisms for these programs. They can say, hey, what I'm doing right here is right, or what I'm doing is wrong, and help us improve upon that and continue to better all the different opportunities that we're trying to present.
All right, so we're going to move forward. So, basically, I want to frame this discussion in such a way, because I strongly believe that we have an urgent task before us as African people, where oppressed people as a whole are shaping their futures. You see this resistance, you see organization. Look at what Hamas is doing right now in Palestine, in the Gaza Strip. They are engaged in resistance, and they're trying to take control of their future. And the reality is that African people ourselves have to begin to assume responsibility for our lives and our futures. So I want to frame this discussion in such a way where you ask me questions that would bring you closer to understanding why it's so important that you join the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. I'm assuming that those of you who are deciding not to join tonight have a reason for doing so. You have discovered some contradictions in what I'm saying. And I want you to challenge me. I want you to say, Diop, I don't agree with this or that which you said, and therefore I'm not trying to join NPDUM. And I can deal with that. And I want you to challenge me so that I can understand ways in which I can articulate the message in a better way. Because my responsibility is to win you to join the organization so we can transform the situation for our people. So that's the type of discussion that I'm interested in having right now. So with that said, if anybody would like, to raise questions, concerns, struggles, please do so. Uhuru. Yes, sir, brother.
Yes, sir. My question is, what is demanded or required of me besides economically, like in joining the InPDUM? Is it, what do I have to do aside from donating money? What's going to be required of me?
I'm glad you raised that, because I was actually concerned that one thing that we recognize is that not everybody has the ability to do what I do in terms of time, availability, and other things, So we want to create a situation in which there's something that everybody can do. We have a saying in our movement that nobody knows or can do everything, but everybody can do something. And one way in which you can be a contributing member is simply by paying a $35 membership fee, which in itself is a financial contribution to the organization to help sustain the work that our organizers do. However, there are other ways in which you can be an active member as well. In fact, tomorrow evening, we're going to have an organizer meeting where I'm going to lay out the basic day-to-day activity of a standard NPDUM branch, like what it means to be a branch of NPDUM, what type of work you can expect to have to do on a day-to-day level. And, within that framework, there's all types of possibilities, and you can actually create your own type of projects within a certain strategic framework, according to what we, decide in our annual conventions. But if you want to get more information about specific day-to-day activity, then you should be there tomorrow night. We're going to have the address available. In fact, Congressman Xavier, you know the address.
Yeah, so the meeting's going to be tomorrow. The address, you're going to write it down. I'll give you a second to get a pen and a pad. But it's 6655 Aviation Drive, Aviation, and the zip code is 92114. And so that's where we're going to be meeting up for that organizing meeting tomorrow. It's going to be 7 o'clock.
Yeah. And just to, some basic things are laid out. What's that? Yeah, some basic things are laid out in the membership brochure in terms of some of our main programs, including the Urban Agriculture Program, which I believe the San Diego branch at one time was doing community gardening, the Campaign for African Community Self-Defense, which deals primarily with stopping this colonial violence that our people face at the hands of the police, and even Trayvon Martin type situations. Also the Marcus Garvey Academy and Saturday School, and to build for the International Convention itself are some of the practical ways in which you can contribute. And also there's other aspects of the work, the media, on the media front, Conrad Maito talked about Uhuru News and Uhuru Radio. So these are all this is a few of the programs that we have available to you. Uhuru.
I would like to just throw in on that, being over the part of the action problem, Uhuru Radio, that we definitely can use graphic designers, if you're an audio engineer, if you can edit video, if you can shoot video, if you're a journalist, if you want to write articles, like someone could be here, they could write a report on this, what you saw, what was happening. That would be, if you can proofread, if you can edit. You know, we have a newspaper that goes out around the world every month. We have a Uhuru News where we have articles and essays and lessons that go up. We need writers. We need accountants. We need a lot of different things. Your gift can be used. So there's plenty of place for you to work.
Uhuru, thank you for that. Anybody else? Brother, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow.
Excellent, excellent. Uhuru, Brother Kwame.
Comment, the Uhuru movement is a very broad movement. Can you give us some examples of the different areas or different aspects of the Uhuru movement, for instance, ADEP, BOD, how much from?
Yeah, so like the brother said, the Uhuru movement is kind of like a popular term for the umbrella movement or organization that is led by the African Socialist International. And under the Uhuru movement, you have such organizations like InPDUM, but you also have the All African People's Development and Empowerment Project, which Kwame just referred to, which specifically deals with the questions of sustainable development in the African community. Things like the community garden are projects that APDEP in particular takes on. In Sierra Leone, APDEP has a very strong, I would say Sierra Leone is a stronghold for the APDEP work, where we have a vocational school where literally hundreds of students attend to get vocational training. We have an agricultural program, a water purification program that's right now happening in Sierra Leone and in other parts of the U.S., and APDEP is growing in Europe as well. You also have the African People's Solidarity Committee. Solidarity referring to the relationship that we call on white people to have with the African liberation struggle. We believe strongly that white people must play a role in the African liberation movement, and it should be a role of principled solidarity, and they go back into the white community to organize other white people to unite with the call for reparations, the return of the stolen resources, stolen wealth from African and other oppressed people. And so that is Comrade Wendy, in fact. Wendy here is a member of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and that is another component of the Uhuru movement. You also have Black Star Industries, which is the economic engine of the Uhuru movement. Like Comrade Xavier said, we are firm believers that imperialism is not going to fund a revolution that will, overturn. That doesn't make any sense. If we're going to be free, then we will have to build our own economic capacity. And in fact, politics in general is nothing but concentrated economics. And so we take the question of economic self-reliance and development very, very seriously. And we have Black Star Industries, about which I think we have some literature on the table, but that would entail Uhuru Foods, Uhuru Pies, and other programs that are being developed as we speak. And we have, of course, the Uhuru Radio and the general work of Ajit Prop, which is responsible for the Berners-Spear newspaper, Uhuru Radio, Uhuru News, and other Berners-Spear Press, the books, the literature you see there. So there's various components of the Uhuru movement, and there's other components that we want to build. We want to build an African Women's Commission, a specific organization that would enable African women to organize around their interests and their particular concerns as it relates to the overall African liberation struggle. We want to build an African internationalist labor union, so that when I was talking about the strikes that happened in South Africa, that is something that an African internationalist labor union can organize and coordinate on a worldwide scale so as to bring this entire system to its very needs. So these are other projects that we are in the process of developing as well, all under the umbrella of the Uhuru movement.
And some of these different, occupations or roles, you may not have even heard of or may not feel any type of comfortable saying, oh, well, I want to be a web designer but I don't have any experience on it. One of the biggest things the Uhuru movement does is give new skills training to people in our communities, whether it's journalism, whether it's website editing and design. There's all different types of programs being put on, which means we have people with experience and knowledge in these fields that want to pass this on to people who are enthusiastic. And so Mariela earlier mentioned that we hold a summer project every year. What that is a literal camp, you could say, where organizers from all over the world, I've been the one with organizers from the Bahamas, Canada, Toronto, London, Brussels, you name it, people were there, all in this movement, coming to learn together what different strategies and tactics work in their cities, how they get people organized, and sharing all this knowledge, all this collective experience to empower and strengthen everybody's understanding of it. So you'll have someone who has no experience in organizing or any of this stuff that we mentioned previously come for one summer, be fed, housed, all by the movement, and come out of it with great skills on how to manage a website, on how to organize people in their communities to sell the Burning Spear newspaper, on how to proofread and write your own articles about issues going on in your city that are affecting your communities and submit them and have them published in the Burning Spear newspaper, which is internationally circulated. So your story will be read by Africans going through the same conditions in Brussels and all different parts of Asia, Europe, the continent, and South America. So we do training, and people have learned many different skills if you don't find your niche.
How we doing on time? I know it's who's GJ? 8:55. Okay, I know we maybe if there's any other questions we can deal with combat. What's your name, brother?
Sharon Bray?
Hold on, what's that?
Sharon Bray?
Sharon?
Sharon.
Sharon.
What has the Uhuru movement done specifically to help uplift the black youth and specifically also in San Diego?
Okay, good. So I'm sure that Xavier can talk about what we've done in San Diego, but on the whole, one of our tasks is to build the African International Student Organization, which is not just to deal with Africans in school, but to organize African youth, but also to build a youth organization that would take on particular questions. Perhaps, in one mass rally, I can even show the video on horizontal violence, which I know is a real serious issue that's impacting a lot of communities. I just came up from Oakland where literally there was a shootout right in front of, right in front of the building, you know what I'm saying? And that's the problem that happens throughout our communities, and part of the work we do is to organize the youth around understanding who their real enemy is and to protect and defend the African community as opposed to fighting each other. But Comrade Xavier, can talk more about what we've done in San Diego.
And so he spoke on how we're trying to organize the International African, or the African International Student Organization. Students, as we know, have always been leading forces of change. I think it was said earlier, children that go to school to learn how to deal with the future, how we're going to face the problems that we're looking at now. And so universities, schools have enormous amounts of resources, of knowledge that's not publicly circulated in our communities, but that we have family members, who have children and students and sons and daughters in these school systems, who have access to research libraries, access to all these different types of resources, whether it's the student organization budgets, or just having access to a building so that you can have a community organize a meeting on campus. That's one thing that there's been a huge separation of from past organizing from students to present organizing of students, is that the whole reason we have ethnic studies programs, the whole reason we have educational opportunities program departments that offer financial aid and services for first generation college students, is because of organizations who struggle to get those programs put in place for their children and for their next generations. But what we've seen is those programs be co-opted and taken over by people with different interests. So nowadays on campus, when African Student Organization used to be leading the charge on what proposition or laws affecting our community was going on, and leading the education part of it, because they have the access to the actual research and the facilities to analyze it. You know, now we're seeing them organize Lil Wayne to come on campus so that everybody could have a kickback, chill day, you know, to have different producers or MCs come and share their knowledge and experience in certain industries. But that conscious political life is not there. We're not seeing that, and it's not united on a nationwide level. You know, it's far-fetched nowadays for African student unions from different states to, to bust to each other and participate in each other's protests. We don't see that type of unity anymore, and that's why it's necessary to create an African International Student Organization. And then we can organize around the issues being faced right here. Most prominent, budget cuts across the board of education will be the first line of defense when any type of legislation comes up saying that we're going to strip your children's futures, that we're going to tear down the facilities that are the building blocks for their future lives. You know, we would be the first people stopping that. And that's why we need student organizations like the African International Student Organization to be fully established. We do have students in the Uhuru movement all over the country and the world who are taking part in InPDUM and these different organizations, but they need to focus on that access they have to the college resources so that we can address not only stop the budget cuts in California, but wait a minute, why is it that we should be stopping the budget cuts? And should we be stopping the budget cuts if the budget is only going towards a colonial education that isn't teaching us education to get us out of our communities, or not get us out, but uplift our communities in a way that is positive and not destructive to the people around us?
Uhuru, we gotta move.
Did that answer the question? Sorry.
Can I help answer this question? Because
Well, real quick, Kwame, because we do gotta move forward to the agenda.
Okay,
And I want to get the sister's question as well. But one thing we got to be clear on, talk about the question of youth. The students are important, but the fact is the students are not a driving force of anything. In fact, students are not a social force at all. Neither is the youth, so to speak. Most African youth don't even have the luxury of enjoying a youth, so to speak. One of the things that was important about the Black Panther Party was that it had the ability to bring revolutionary theory into the hood, to the projects, to the broad sectors of African youth who don't have any kind of relationship with the education system at all, really, because of the way the system is set up. So one of our fundamental responsibility as InPDUM is to take these politics down, into the most oppressed sectors of the community, bring revolutionary theory, so that, like I told you about Nobel mixing, so that there could be 2, 3 major Nobel mixings that can emerge from our communities, but are not just engaged in individual acts of resistance, but that they can engage in resistance that's tied to revolutionary organization and strategy that will result in power in our own hands. So that's our real fundamental task. The work in the campuses and the students is important, but our fundamental task is to organize the masses of the people, but most of whom do not even have a relationship with the school, so to speak. So I just want to be clear about that as well. And sister, we want to get your statement or question. I don't know who you refer to by email. Sister, Uhuru.
Earlier, you kind of touched on legal coverage for individuals who are experiencing discrimination or racism on physical grounds. So what type of legal coverage or services is one provided with the membership, having membership with UnPDUM?
Yeah, good question. You know, we just waged a successful struggle to free our comrade. His name is Diop Olugbala. And if we have more time, we'll show you the video. But because the reality is that this is the type of work that some of our members do. We talk about, you know, organizing demonstrations and putting the police on trial and stuff like that, can sometimes put us in direct, you know, contact with the state, and sometimes it can result in somebody getting arrested. You know, that's true. Now, we always move in such a way strategically where that doesn't happen. But we can't be so naive as to say that that can't happen. And therefore, part of our responsibility that the sisters raising is that we got to have, it would be irresponsible of us if we did not have a capacity to defend our members should they get caught up in some type of legal situation. Not just for like our activists, but for the masses of people as well who's dealing with just a general kind of relationship with the courts and the police and the prisons where just being black in America, you're going to have to go to court at some time in your life. And we want to have the ability to, for one, you know, educate the people around what their legal rights are. Because 9 times out of 10, I noticed for a fact that the DAs and the court system relies on plea bargaining, you know, where applicants don't even know what our general rights are in the courts. And so we end up copping a plea because we don't know that we can fight it, you know, and there's all other ways in which the system, you know, railroads us all the time. And so part of what we've done in various cities, including Philadelphia, we've held what we call the Uhuru Law School, where we have panels of lawyers provide free, you know, legal services and information, lawyer rights type of workshops to the people so the people can be armed with legal information and whatnot. But the reality is, at the end of the day, every single trial that happens in a court, there's a legal component to it, but the fundamental question is always political. Every single trial or hearing that happens in any courtroom in this country is a political case when it comes down to it. And the DA, the judge, even the jury, how they understand the case that's going on will be shaped and defined by how, you know, the ideas in society allow it to be defined. So we have a movement, a vibrant, strong movement out here that is challenging the very validity of a court system. How the hell can the U.S. government call anybody a criminal when it's the biggest criminal on the history of the planet, you know? And when we can like win that understanding in a deep, profound way, it's going to be hard to find a jury to, you know, find any applicant guilty of anything under that type of understanding. And I speak in real broad terms, but that's part of what we did with our recent struggle to free our comrade Diop Olugbala, who is a veteran movement leader in Oakland, California. He actually led a contingent of our members to police so-called open house to serve a people's subpoena to the chief of police, where we was putting the police on trial for the crimes they committed against the people. And in the process of serving the subpoena, Diop was attacked and arrested by the police. Then they tried to charge him with violent threats against the police and obstructing justice and all this nonsense. And so from that point on, we had to wage a serious, intense political campaign to free Diop that resulted in our victory. Just last week, a couple weeks ago, the DA dropped the charges. Only reason why they dropped the charges is because we made it impossible for the DA and the court system to get away with creating a situation where we gotta defend locally. We put a situation where the DA and the OPD had to defend themselves against the charges that they are the criminals, you know? So, and that's the type of movement that we got to build, along with the fact that we was able to raise over $5,000 to cover the legal fees and the bail and all that. But to answer your question, sister, we take the question of having legal, economic capacity to pay our lawyers and to have as many lawyers as we can run to the movement so that when we have to go to trial, we have support on that front as well.
And our goal, though, is that another successful campaign we just had was the campaign to free Eric Oliver, who wasn't a member of the movement. He was a young African who had defended a younger friend of his from a mob of people who literally dragged his friend out of a house in the style of old day lynchings. And he fought off the mob single-handedly, yet he was the only one charged by the police. And so his mother actually, who had, I think, a 30-year history, not 30 years of history, but 30 years ago, she had a connection with the Uhuru movement, called him up and said, you know, this is what Eric's going through. Can you help fight for him? As the Uhuru movement, of course, we stand up and we say we're going to fight for him, and we led a successful campaign to get the charges dropped from him. But our goal is not to be reactionary. Our goal is to wait and have more and more of us thrown up against this prison system and just react to events like freeing Troy Davis or Tukey Williams or anything like that. Our goal is to prevent that from happening. We have to advance it, even if there isn't somebody who's, even though it's impossible to say that at all times as African in this country going through this legal system, but we can't just sit back and wait for a good case to drop in our lap, one that we think we're going to win. We say we fight every single case because it is a system that is enslaving people on this modern day prison system of political prisoners.
So I think we're good for the, okay. So at this time, I think we had some good discussion. Hopefully people feel more compelled, heard more reasons why it's so important that we build an organization like InPDUM. And I really want to struggle and encourage everybody here to join InPDUM. I'm just curious, over the last 15 minutes since we had this discussion, do you feel a little bit more confident in your need to join this organization?
We got one new member right there at the table. We just signed up, Uhuru.
Excellent, excellent. Right on. Anybody else would like to join InPDUM tonight or in the very near future?
Is there a way for anyone, sometimes people are shy about coming forward, how can they contact, they want to sign up, donate, whatever, later on their own time?
Yeah. Well, we have everybody's contact information, and part of our protocol is what we call a follow-up call, where we're going to have a one-on-one discussion with you, and we can get more, information about what you want to do. So, we want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and we do want to open it up. I know there are other organizations present tonight, and others who may be involved in certain types of work that they like to announce at this time. We want to open it up for announcements before we adjourn tonight's event. So are there any announcements that anybody like to make? Come on up, Conrad.
My name is Alfredo. I am part of the Save Our Barrios Committee, and first I'd like to thank InPDUM for putting on this event tonight and then giving me the opportunity to say a few words, and also to Diop for coming all the way down from Oakland to express the need for revolutionary organization and how dire it is. My organization, the Save Our Barrios Community, we are having a event this Thursday just up the street at the Central about gentrification in Logan Heights and how our neighborhood is being taken away slowly bit by bit, and it's accelerating actually year by year, where the people who are living there are losing more and more property, more and more space, and more power, and We want to reverse that and in the end take control of the neighborhood and take control of who comes in, who lives there, things like that. We don't want more Walmarts, we don't want more Northgates, we want more small businesses, we want more power for the people who are living there. We want to make sure that the historical community stays the same as it's been there for a long time, as it's been there for nearly 100 years. We don't want a brand new Logan that isn't for the historical residents. We want a Logan and the surrounding areas to stay for the people who have been there. Thank you. Have to be this Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. this Thursday. Thank you.
So Central, as you guys know, is right behind the WorldBeat Center. We know InPDUM will have a presence there, and hope you all can attend that as well. We have to support our fellow organizations in solidarity, and that's something that we have stood in principled solidarity with Unión del Barrio, a Mexican revolutionary organization based here in San Diego for over 25 years now.
So hopefully we'll see those who want to build and get involved in this work tomorrow night at 6655 Aviation Drive. And we talk some more, like, the event is formally adjourned, but we can wrap. Uhuru.
Uhuru.